Hello.
Hi, D.Petersen from D.Petersen Furniture Restorations, and I've just taken this chair apart and getting it ready to re-cane. I've been soaking the cane and it's ready to go, so I pulled it out of the water. I've dug the channel here out a little bit deeper. One thing you have to make sure is that your channel is clean and free of all debris, because if you have any, the cane is put in with a lot of glue. How much glue? This much glue. Because most of it will all come back out. There's no cheap way of saving glue. You need that to ensure that everything is going to bond well, because there's a lot of water involved in doing this. There's a split in the back of the chair here, and the glue will work its way through the split, and the last thing I do will be placing a clamp here for this split here. It's been here for a long time, and the glue will work its way through here inside, so we'll just leave that alone. So I guess I'll start now. So you soak your cane in water, submerge it completely. The ultimate way of, ideal way of having your cane in water is to roll it, not to, you just don't want to have any harsh squares. Well, when working with cane, you want to have a 2-inch overhang all the way around the chair. Doesn't matter how good you are, you want to have that little bit of waste. You know, you just to ensure that the cane is going to be tight. And what's extremely important is to make sure your cane is square. As you look on the other chair that I did earlier, if you pick a point on the chair here in the center, follow it down across. And because if the cane is askew at all, it looks horrible. That was caned about 2 hours ago. The clamps can come off in about an hour. So here we go. The spline was put in the water for 5 minutes just to make it absorbent. My pliers, which I dried off, are right here. Every time you finish doing it, you need to clean and dry your tools. You want to make an inverted cut. Some people will put them this way. I like to invert it. And then the other one will tuck under. And start center of your chair. And the easiest way to do that is just to pick a point and start to the back with your spring clamps. That's done. Just do that loosely for a second. Always make sure it's fairly even around, because if you get a short side, you will start all over again. So that's it. There, we're ready to go. So now you're going to seat the spline, and you're going to hit the spline each spot. Each hit will about 20 or 30 times there, 20 or 30 times there, but it's very repetitive. I just want this down. If you slip over the spline and hit this, you will tear it, and then you'll have to start again. You can't save this stuff once you split it. So loosely, just with the hammer, not much pressure. Use your fingers to pull the spline into the groove. Do 8 to 10 inches. It will pop back out on you. Force it into the hole. You're forcing the glue, working the glue through everything. And then you're going to reverse and start working the glue out. This is something you're going to be doing all the way until the job is completely done. And it does splash back at you. Keep plenty of clean wet cloths for the glue because you don't want that building up. And before I started, I lightly sanded the flat areas because it's a lot easier getting them with no cane and having the areas clean than trying to do it later. Ah! If I'm watching you walk around the table. And it's important to keep the spline straight. There we go. I was taught by a French Canadian how to do caning with little oak blocks every 6 inches. And freehanding it, freestyling it is the way to go. It's a lot easier and you can keep it a lot more true and square. So I shall continue here. It's a little tricky. You can take the chair apart, but it's easier to just work with it in place. Again, don't slip with the hammer. Oh, like that. Oh, that's great. I didn't do any damage. This is awful. That's the first time I've ever done something like that. There. Good. That. The tricky part is working with the chair together is to get the back part of the spline in. Like I said, taking the chair apart opens up several other different problems. So it's easier just to work it, getting it in. Don't let the spline roll on you. So you just have to apply a little reverse pressure. My fingers are still slipping from the first one. And don't hit it too hard because you can split it with the pressure of the glue working its way up the sides. This chair is probably 50, 60 years old. And it's starting to dry out. So lots of hits, not hard hits, consistent, steady taps. Anytime that you'd have to force it means you didn't clean the channel out properly. Right, pull this around. You don't need any more than 2 spring clamps. You can have as many as you want, but they just tend to get in the way. I use them just to keep the cane at a 90-degree angle. It gets easy. Like I said earlier, that I've done over 500 of these over the years. And this is the best way to do them. All I'm doing right now, tapping it like this, is creating the pocket that it's going to go into. And if you hit the spline too hard, like I said, you'll end up crushing the spine. And then you have a problem. You need to take the spline off and then start again. And keep your tools clean. Okay, you can literally just push it in. If you can just push the spline in, you're using the wrong size spline. Like when I say it pushes in, this, if you look at the spline, it's tapered. So that spline, like I said, if you look at the other chair, it's going to end up just being like a 1/16 of an inch proud, like it is about here at the finished height, right there. Any higher than that, it's improper. Any lower than that, you put too much pressure on the wood and the chair will probably split. And these cane chairs, when they're done correctly, you know, maximum weight on a cane chair, a seat like this, because it's quite a wide chair, would be like maximum 200 pounds. Any more than that, it's dangerous. That dangerous that you're just going to fall through it. So all that glue I squirted in the hole, about 70% of it's going to come back out, but it's going to ensure that there's a really good bond as it's drying. So we'll take this guy off, put him back to this side. Just a little bit of pressure to pull this in tight. That actually has made the channel there and is holding that now. So, the important part here is to make sure everything is lining up well, which it is. Alright, one more time. Okay, there we go. Let's come up. Actually, I quite like these. And the reason why this is done wet is because as it dries, it shrinks. And that is what's going to give you that drum beat sound, like what I showed you on the other chair. And you're working on the clock. This whole thing, start to finish, getting the spline in with the glue still workable. You don't want the glue running down the side of the spline and thinning out the glue, weakening the joint. So the whole time I'm doing this, I'm trying to do it as efficiently and quickly as possible without rushing it. Because in restoration, refinishing, you rush nothing. You want more than one job from a client. Sweetie, this splashes and you're gonna get your shirt wet. So
you're the best, Dad.
Well, there we go. So when I come to here, like I said, I've inverted this, so I'm gonna do the reverse on this side. I'll line it up. It's a small snip. And then I want to So this, like that. So you line it up. After a while, it's easy. So you want to slightly pull this and tuck it under. Melena, I can't have you behind me, honey. It's a family affair. So, and this ensures by locking that spline in like that. But if the spline is too big, it's just going to create problems too. And this is just slightly too long. So you just cut it twice. Elena, I have to focus on what I'm doing, sweetheart. I don't need any water.
Just making sure.
Thank you. Okay.
You're the best dad.
Yeah, keep saying that. All right, so this is ready. Okay, so now do not slip forward, because if you, like I said, if you hit the cane, you tear the cane, you pull the cane off. Clean out your joints, scrape all the glue out, because if you glue onto old glue, your joint's only going to be as strong as gluing onto old glue. So to ensure everything is done, that these chairs are going to hold somebody 200 plus pounds, you want to make sure everything is done good. What did that take, about 10 minutes, this part?
Almost 17.
17. Well, that's good. Okay, so now we get this wet. And just a bit of the glue. This is still a little high here, so just let the water off there. Put that back down a bit more. That was a little foobar on my part, but the water hasn't gone in. You want to, because once this glue isn't coming out white and clear, like glue, if it's watered down at all, you've ruined the joint. So you got to ensure this thing pop back up. That is why I do this when I finish painting and wipe everything down. This is finished wood, so it doesn't stain or it stick to the cane. I've done 100 of these and I've never had a problem. One night I came in to check on my chairs and 3 of the canes had popped up, 3 of the splines, so I had to start from scratch. So I just make it standard policy that after they're all done, I clamp them down and I let them sit in a clamp while the glue is setting. There's no shortcuts in anything with furniture refinishing, restoration. I hear on the internet all the time, oh well, money's tight, I can't afford that, we can just use paper towel to put gun oil on, or oil finishes, and you can see all the lint stuck in it. If you can't afford cheesecloth or lint-free cloths, you shouldn't be doing finishing, right? So I'm going to focus on this, not what I see on the internet. All right, cloth to dry up, then we're going to pull the clamp off. And we're going to get this down tight. So now comes all the hammering. Here we go. And I said the splines meet up at the front. This is where the glue's going to want to squirt out. So I'm going to be working the glue up and out. Right now there's like an air bubble underneath the spline because I've locked it in there with the excess glue. That's why the spline keeps popping up. So you're going to go around this as many times as it takes to get the glue to bead up like this. Never work away from yourself like I'm doing now, because it's really hard to see where you're going, and you can actually set the spline too deep. And then again, you probably split the chair. So be careful. You can always hit it more. So I'm going to have to reverse this a little bit there. Like I said, the back part of the chair is a little tricky, but it's a lot easier having this in place and it absorbing the impact than having this sit and fixed to the bench. Because I've tried many ways and it works, but in this application on these Parlour chairs, they work best this way. My opinion. 35 years of doing that, and that is my opinion. There we go. So that is down. See, this side's popped up a little bit. That's the glue in the back working its way around. Again, there's not much pressure here. See? That much. It's the fall of the hammer, basically. See, in that 3 minutes, the previous one I did got a little punky. This one is perfect. That was in the water for 3 minutes. You see this area here where it's kind of crunched? That's nothing. It's all fibrous. It's made out of bamboo. And the glue will absorb the spline. The taper part of the spline is already over a 1/4 inch down. That's just superficial. There's a good word. Superficial. Okay, so we're almost done. Just get this glue out. And doing this style joint, when this is done, that joint, when it's all cleaned up, you won't even know where that joint is. There's nothing worse than when they put the spline in. Where did the, there it is. Sharp razor blade. Always, I said, you constantly need to keep everything sharp because it works easier. Always get rid of your metal bits because they're deadly in a finishing shop. So now we start cutting, and again very slowly because you don't want to cut the wood on the chair. I could wipe the glue off right now, but I'm trying to speed this up a little bit for everybody that's watching this video, or anybody that's watching this video. I'm working with a knife sharp razor blade. If you do make a slight cut, it can be fixed, but always keep your fingers behind where you're cutting. I've never slipped. I'm sure it would hurt a lot. And remember, things move. Don't move your body, move the piece. We'll always ensure that you keep your fingertips. You know, move things any way you need to move them to, so you're not contorting your body at weird angles trying to cut with a razor blade. And you don't want to cut down into the spline. I'm cutting, as you see here, I'm cutting at like a 45 to cut the excess off. I don't want to cut down in and damage my joint. Make sense? And now just back here. This is a little harder when you're cutting away from yourself. So try and keep a little pressure back on the blade so you don't slip. And you want to make sure before you pull this away that you have all your pieces loose. The back edge, as I said, if this is popping up, you don't want to make your cut. You want to make sure that spline is holding all your excuse me, all your cane in place. If you slip and cut, If you slip and cut a section of your spline away, it's not the end of the world. It can be filled. You have a majority of it holding. If it's just, like I said, if it's not structural, as you see at the back end here, you come around the back, you see this kind of open. You see this is still going to come down. If you, the height here, you're like 1/8 of an inch. That needs to come down another 1/8. So I'm just going to finish cutting these, and this will all come off in one. Okay, so that's done. Wet cloth now. You're working with a finish on here. This chair has its finish on it, so I was going to clean it. The chair is kind of filthy because of buildup just over the years. Oil and gunk build up the finish, so I'm just kind of using that to protect the finish. It'll go milky white, but there's a chemical called amalgamator that will pull all the discoloration, the white, and all the filth and the dark stuff you see here is just build up and oil, grease, and acid from your fingers. And always, always, always clean, wipe the glue, clean the chair. You always clean, clean, clean. Lots of rags. Don't use paper towel. If you're going to be using paper towel to do anything with restoration or refinishing, don't refinish. Paper towels meant for eating food, right? Wiping your hands. Towels are the best thing you can get. It's my favorite thing. It's the best tip I can get from a client, so they give me their old towels. Otherwise, you have to buy them. Cheesecloth is great for applying shellacs and doing certain finishing applications, but all staining, wiping, stripping, cleaning, everything is done with nice, soft, good quality towels. It's expensive, but it does the trick. I am now making sure I get all the glue out now, because if you've ever seen one of these chairs where somebody has done a job and they don't get it all out, you can see all the glue all dried in here, and it looks bloody awful. Again, it's just somebody rushing something, somebody not getting enough out with their paper towel. You know, don't be scared of water. It's not going into the joint at all. We have that one split I said about earlier where we're going to fix at the back, but it's fine. So if you were to leave this chair on the angle, the glue would all work its way out the front. So you always want to make sure these are down. There's another finished towel. Wipe your piece. We're about 5 minutes away from being done. I'm going to put this off to the side. When I prepped the area here after I grooved it out, just fold up the sandpaper, because you don't want sharp edges. Because if you have a sharp edge, when you're pushing the spline down, that sharp edge is going to cut your cane. So just force the sandpaper in. It's just around the edges. You don't want to sit and grind the edges down. You just want to break the edge. And always, always, always keep your bench clean. There, I need to come around you and get you some more cloths here. Cloths. There we go. This comes in here. This beautiful Morris chair here is next. Next job. I think we'll do a video on how to glue a Morris chair. You do all the joints properly. Alright, so this is the final step, seating the spline. So, as far back as you can, and you can watch the glue spread out. And this is where you want to be a little more exact, and you're watching the pressure you're watching the amount of glue coming out. It'll increase as you come along because you're forcing the glue to the front now. And seating your spine. Seating the spine. See how it's coming up here? That's because of the glue. If I put less glue in, would I save work? No. The amount of glue, you always fill the trough. We call that the trough. You always fill the trough. Always. Is it wasteful? A little bit. Do customers come back with loose cane? I think in 35 years or 500 chairs, maybe 3 times. Maybe twice. I know they've once for sure. I think that was up here on the coast. This is going to get a nice rhythm going. It always helps. That's good. All right, here we go. If you can see edge marks from this cold chisel into the spline, you're hitting it too hard. Right? If you look closely here, there's no dents. I ground this chisel down on the grinder to get a 1/4 inch reveal at the bottom. See how that's forcing it back up here? This one, just because I've been working all day, all night, I'm tired. But this is funny, this one's being a little more trouble. But it's just air and glue. That's all it is. And if you want, like I said, you want your good joint, you get it out of there. So back is sitting good. See here, this is good. This part there is just a little high. And to work that little area out, it's going to go back and forth a few times because hitting it here forces the glue back. So you can do that. So we're going to take the clamps off that other one. It's been a couple of hours. So you're starting to switch over to drier rags. This little bit of stuff here is just bits and pieces of the cane. The spline is taking a little bit of a beating, but like I said, it's all fiber and it'll all set up nice. Last bit, extend your blade a little bit, and it's just to do a final cut. So you want to just
turn up the cooler. This is time on CBC Radio 2.
Some people don't worry too much about this. You can color it out or sand it out, but it's just like stripping when you're doing the beginning stages of restoration, refinishing. Is the beginning, the first parts of the jobs you do, you want to make sure those are perfect as you can get them, because it makes the rest of the job, because these are going to be stained slightly. and sanded, and if you have a lot of buildup and gunk around, so I've cut a little bit of the spline away there because they're where they join up, and it looks nice. It just looks nice to have a nice clean edge. And you keep the knife at a 45 like I said earlier, because you don't want to be cutting down into, you want to call it the meat or whatever. You want to keep as much of that cane sitting in the groove as possible. This is my first educational video too. Okay, I've been saying to my wife the last couple of years, a lot of this stuff I've seen on YouTube, the misinformation on how to get rid of various white marks, how to solve surface scratches. It just scares me that people actually listen to some of this stuff. I will go through each job. I'm going to do a series of these, different things on gluing, stripping, assessing damage, structural repairs, and I will go through each one in detail. See this here where it's right, this is still sitting a little high, but like I said, it's just fragmented a little bit. So just by hand, cold chisel at the back, roll it down, roll it down, and that's fine. And that's just gonna just permeate the glue through. There. See the glue coming out of there now?
Looks like it's popping back up.
Where?
Right there.
No, it's because it's this one little area's. But this will all settle in. The glue's gonna tighten it all back in place, and that's by using a dry rag. You just dry it, and then when I put the blocks on, when this dries up a little bit, it's just manipulating the fibers, So this is all good. This is good. I'm happy. So that's it. So how many minutes did it take to do that?
Almost 40.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. I'm losing my touch.
No.
All right, this little tiny bit of stuff here, it's not a big deal. But just, you want to make sure your chair is clean. Big gobby, gross, gluey handprints on top of a finished chair. I'm going to go over and clean the chairs up for the client, no charge. That little bit of extra, I'll remove the buildup and dirt. Easier for her bed and breakfast, so I'm sure she won't mind. All that black that was up here was all around here too, and the water and cleaning protected the finish, and now that I've cleaned up, it's taken it off. And like I said, there's a chemical called amalgamator that I use to wipe all these down when I'm done. There. Alright, so that is done. Again, clean the bench. Clean the tools. Most of the tools you end up making yourself because you just can't find stuff to do caning. Most all the tools that I had given to me by somebody that taught me the caning ended up giving me a set of his tools that he had handmade because he was going to build a better set, he said. Whoops. So there we go. And then I'll just take and rinse out my rags and then just let them wash them and put them away for next time. Glue rags don't become stain rags. It doesn't work. Glue rags are glue rags and that's it. Sorry. All right, so clamps off, clamp on. See that glued? There's the glue, no sticking. It's pretty much tacked up. You can check the front ends. You see this bit of discoloration? That's just moisture. There's no stains. That's why you always use a finished piece of wood, because it won't stick. So this area here, you can do anything. Even though it's wet, the tape's not going to do anything. But if you had something really bad, you were really worried about it, it's not like the tape's really going to do anything. You could bunch that up, right? And then put your pressure on. But it's not going to be needed. This will just sit like this. This is on the front. And bring this out flush to the edge. Jorgensen clamp. Set your first clamp. What happened to that one? Third one, your second clamp. To the middle. Give it tight. Loosen it off. Give it a squeeze. Loosen it off. And set your clamp in the corner. And this one's done. There. And these are, if you need more than 3 fingers tight, it's too tight. What you can do with 3 fingers, okay, no more than that. Otherwise you make it brittle, you're going to push the spline down into the chair, and it'll go down too deep. And actually, this actually puts a nice finish on the spline. Stop one, down to the center. Pressure in the middle. Back it off and set your clamp. You want to get the pressure right. You don't want the pressure in, you don't want the pressure rolling out. You want the pressure down on the spline. So just manipulate the clamp to where you need it. Again, 3 fingers tight. Guaranteed these are going to be beautiful. So, what are we looking at? To take the cane out of the chair, clean out the groove. You're looking an hour and 20 minutes to get it thoroughly clean. See, again, making sure this is flat. Prepping, and I actually I use this tool and I increased the depth. You see where that's rolling a bit there? You can actually just pull that back, the fiber back. So when the clamp fits on, it's sitting. You see that little bit there? Right there. I'll put a small piece in there and just clamp that in place. But if you look at the chair that's finished, there you can see how nicely everything's. I'll pass that to you in a sec. David pants falling down. Always have a large variety of clamps. F clamps, C clamps, spring clamps, any type of clamps. Any clamp I see that I don't have, I will buy. Anybody offers you clamps, always take them. So you can have a look at this now. There. You see this little bit of glue here? I want to put, so that's what happened. You see how this is all a nice 16th inch run? Remember when I cut that? I cut that a little deep But instead of that going down, this has a long tail going under. So a little bit of clear filler there, that'll clean that right up. But I need to get that glue off. Remember this was the other one that had the split? Both of these had splits in the back. Remember how bad that was torn? I put pressure and I rolled over the edge with the wood, and that's taken that whole piece. I'm gonna put another clamp on that because that split was so bad, it's gonna need continuous pressure on it overnight. But as for the caning, 2 hours in clamps is more than enough. There we go. So get your first clamp. And the way I'm showing you guys how this is done, this is how I do this. This is how I do this every day. This is how I would do every single cane job. Nothing different. The way I show you is the way I was shown. I've modified things a little bit, but the principle is the same. The most important thing is never ever over tighten clamps because you make the joints brittle, and then you end up with garbage. What am I doing?
This needs to go
I know,
over here.
I know. I'm using my small left clamp. I'm tired. Yeah. Never run out of clamps. There you go. Alright, there we go. Last one. And that split just disappeared. Remember I said I was going to have to work at that a little bit? So just, you can lightly just go under here to make sure that it's still nice and clean. Any last little bits of glue. You can take a nice sharp razor blade and just cut it. Just kidding. Yeah. So that's yeah, just scrape the glue right out. So that's a bad joke. Bad. Alright, so we're done.
Okay.
And
That's pressing
we
cane.
will go over the last 10 minutes of everything tomorrow. So the only thing I was going to show you here is just to make sure that glue that was at the back of the chair that dries, you'll never get it out. You'll have to pick it out with a dental instrument. If you try and stain it, the stain will never penetrate and you'll have to sit and hand paint it all in. So clean claws always, and there's not one little tear anywhere on any of this cane. It'll take the pressure nice, and that, listen, that's the sound you're looking for. When you drop a quarter from say 6 inches, it's gonna bounce up 8 inches. That's a perfect cane job. That's the bounce you're looking for. So we're good.
Thanks, Dave.
That's it. Thank you. Fade to black. Fade to brown.